Avoidants don't just run from love, they run from every form of success, recognition, and achievement that threatens to make them visible, valued, or vulnerable to having something meaningful that could be lost. Their self-sabotage operates like a sophisticated defense system designed to keep them safely mediocre, consistently underachieving, and perpetually protected from the terror of having something worth losing. They destroy opportunities before opportunities can disappoint them, reject success before success can reject them, and ensure their own failure to avoid the devastating possibility of unexpected failure later. The most heartbreaking aspect of their self-destructive patterns is how unconscious and automatic they've become. They genuinely don't understand why good things never seem to last in their life, why they always find ways to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, why they feel compelled to push away everything they've worked toward the moment it becomes real and attainable. Their sabotage feels like bad luck or external circumstances rather than the predictable result of their terror of being seen, valued, or dependent on anything outside their direct control. But their destruction doesn't stop with their own dreams and opportunities. Like a psychological virus, their success allergy spreads to everyone close to them, creating an environment where achievement feels dangerous, ambition feels selfish, and reaching for more feels like betraying the person who's learned that wanting less is safer than risking more. They unconsciously undermine your goals, minimize your achievements, and create emotional chaos that derails your progress because your success threatens their carefully constructed world where staying small equals staying safe. Understanding their self-sabotage isn't about enabling their destruction or accepting their limitations as unchangeable facts. It's about recognizing the patterns early enough to protect your own dreams from being sacrificed on the altar of their fear. Your success doesn't have to be collateral damage in their war against achievement, and your dreams don't have to be downsized to match their comfort with mediocrity. The tragedy is that their sabotage isn't malicious, it's terrified. They destroy what they most want because having it feels more dangerous than wanting it, keeping it feels more overwhelming than achieving it, and losing it feels more devastating than never having had it at all. But understanding their fear doesn't obligate you to join them in their self-imposed prison of underachievement and emotional stagnation. Professional self-sabotage, why they destroy their own career success. The avoidance relationship with professional success operates like an elaborate self-destruct sequence that activates precisely when their career momentum could propel them toward greater visibility, responsibility, and recognition. They unconsciously torpedo promotions, undermine networking opportunities, and create conflicts with supervisors, not because they lack ambition or capability, but because professional success threatens their core psychological safety by making them visible, valuable, and dependent on systems they cannot completely control. Watch how they handle praise and recognition in professional settings. Instead of accepting compliments gracefully or leveraging positive feedback for career advancement, they deflect, minimize, or actively contradict acknowledgement of their contributions. When supervisors highlight their strengths, they immediately point out their weaknesses. When colleagues recognize their achievements, they attribute success to luck, timing, or other people's efforts. This systematic rejection of professional validation ensures they remain safely invisible rather than risk the increased expectations that come with being seen as competent. Their sabotage often emerges through perfectionism that paralyzes progress rather than enhancing quality. They become so focused on avoiding any possibility of criticism or failure that they miss deadlines, over-research projects until opportunities pass, or refuse to submit work that doesn't meet impossible standards. This perfectionist paralysis protects them from the vulnerability of having their efforts evaluated, while simultaneously ensuring they never achieve the success that would make them more visible and valuable within their organization. The promotion paradox reveals their deepest professional fears. The closer they get to advancement, the more likely they are to engage in behaviors that disqualify them from consideration. They might start arriving late, missing important meetings, or creating conflicts with team members just as their supervisor is considering them for leadership roles. This unconscious self-elimination protects them from the terror of increased responsibility and visibility while maintaining their narrative about external circumstances preventing their success. Their networking abilities suffer from their fundamental discomfort with being known and valued by professional contacts. While they might excel at surface-level professional interactions, they struggle to build the deeper professional relationships that facilitate career advancement because authentic professional connection requires vulnerability about their goals, challenges, and aspirations. They keep professional relationships safely superficial, which limits their access to opportunities that emerge through genuine professional bonds. The avoidant often chooses career paths that offer security over growth, predictability over opportunity, and anonymity over recognition. They gravitate toward roles where they can excel without being noticed, contribute without being highlighted, and perform without being evaluated too closely. This career conservatism protects them from professional vulnerability, while ensuring they never risk the kind of success that would make them indispensable and therefore potentially disappointing to others. When opportunities for advancement do arise, they often find ways to make themselves unavailable or unsuitable, rather than risk the vulnerability of wanting something they might not get or keeping something they might lose. They might schedule conflicts during important presentations, fail to prepare adequately for significant meetings, or create personal crises that require them to withdraw from professional opportunities just as they become available. Their relationship with money and financial success reflects their broader discomfort with accumulating anything valuable that could be lost. They might undercharge for their services, avoid negotiating salaries, or make financial decisions that keep them safely struggling, rather than risking the responsibility and visibility that come with financial stability. Economic security feels more dangerous than economic uncertainty because it creates expectations and dependencies they fear they cannot maintain. The imposter syndrome that plagues many avoidants isn't just self-doubt. It's a sophisticated psychological defense against the terror of being valued for their contributions and then inevitably disappointing those who invested in their potential. By maintaining the internal narrative that they don't deserve success or aren't qualified for advancement, they protect themselves from the vulnerability of accepting professional recognition and the responsibility that comes with being seen as competent. Their professional sabotage often intensifies when their personal relationships are stable and supportive, because success in multiple life areas feels overwhelmingly vulnerable. If their romantic relationship is going well, they might unconsciously create professional chaos to maintain their comfort level with struggle and uncertainty. They seem unable to tolerate too much good fortune across multiple life areas simultaneously. The most tragic aspect of their professional self-sabotage is how it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that confirms their deepest fears about their own capabilities and worth. By systematically undermining their own success, they create evidence that they're not cut out for achievement, recognition, or professional fulfillment. This false evidence then justifies continued self-sabotage while protecting them from the vulnerability of discovering what they might actually be capable of achieving if they allowed themselves to succeed without interference from their own fear. Relationship sabotage. How they destroy love when it gets real. The avoidant's most devastating sabotage occurs when relationships transition from casual dating to meaningful connection, when someone moves from being an option to being important, when love shifts from theoretical possibility to concrete reality that requires ongoing emotional investment and vulnerability. Their destruction of intimate relationships isn't random or accidental. It follows predictable patterns that emerge precisely when the relationship becomes valuable enough to hurt them if it's lost. The escalation sabotage begins when relationships reach natural milestones that suggest permanence, commitment, or deeper emotional investment. Just as you're planning to move in together, they create a crisis about needing space. Right before meeting your family, they pick a fight about feeling pressured. The moment you start discussing future plans, they become overwhelmed by the relationship's intensity. These aren't coincidental timing issues. They're unconscious attempts to prevent the relationship from reaching levels of significance that would make eventual loss devastating. Watch how they weaponize your love against the relationship itself, using your caring as evidence that the dynamic is unhealthy or unsustainable. Your natural desire for consistency becomes proof that you're needy. Your emotional investment becomes evidence that you're too attached. Your vulnerability becomes confirmation that relationships require too much emotional labor. They systematically reframe every normal relationship need as relationship dysfunction, creating a narrative where your love becomes the problem rather than the solution. Their need creation sabotage involves manufacturing problems that don't exist or amplifying minor issues into relationship-threatening conflicts. They'll turn a casual comment into evidence of fundamental incompatibility, transform a scheduling conflict into proof that you don't understand their needs, or escalate minor disagreements into existential relationship crises. This artificial problem creation gives them legitimate seeming reasons to distance themselves without having to admit they're running from intimacy itself. The comparison trap becomes a weapon for relationship destruction as they suddenly start noticing what they're missing by being committed to you. Other people seem more attractive, different relationship styles seem more appealing, and alternative life paths seem more interesting. This isn't genuine incompatibility. It's their mind desperately searching for reasons why the relationship isn't right, so they can justify leaving before they become too vulnerable to loss. They often engage in emotional affair behaviors or boundary violations that create distance and conflict without requiring them to directly end the relationship. They might develop intense friendships with people who don't know about you, maintain connections with exes that feel inappropriate, or engage in flirtation that creates insecurity and drama. This indirect relationship sabotage allows them to create distance while making you responsible for addressing the boundary issues they've created. The future fear sabotage emerges whenever conversations turn toward long-term commitment, shared goals, or permanent partnership. They become overwhelmed by timeline discussions, panic about life decisions that would involve you, and treat any future planning as pressure rather than natural relationship progression. They'd rather destroy something good than risk being trapped in something that might become bad, even though their definition of trapped is often simply being cared about and valued by another person. Their sabotage often includes emotional withdrawal during your most vulnerable moments, teaching you that sharing your authentic self leads to distance rather than closeness. When you're dealing with family stress, they become unavailable. When you're celebrating achievements, they seem disinterested. When you need support, they become overwhelmed by your needs. This pattern trains you to stop being authentic and vulnerable, which kills intimacy while giving them distance they crave. The self-fulfilling prophecy sabotage involves creating the very relationship problems they fear most, then using those manufactured problems as evidence that relationships don't work. They become unreliable, then complain that you don't trust them. They become emotionally unavailable, then claim you're too demanding. They create chaos, then point to the chaos as proof that relationships are inherently problematic. This sophisticated psychological manipulation allows them to destroy relationships while maintaining their victim narrative. They often sabotage relationships through lifestyle choices that make partnership difficult or impossible, sudden career changes that require relocating, financial decisions that create instability, or social choices that exclude you from their life. These lifestyle sabotages feel like personal growth or practical decisions rather than relationship destruction, allowing them to end things while appearing to prioritize their individual development rather than running from commitment. The happiness sabotage is particularly cruel because it emerges during the relationship's best moments. When you're both genuinely happy and connected, when the relationship is functioning smoothly, when love feels easy and natural, that's precisely when they create drama, pick fights, or become distant. Happiness feels more dangerous than conflict because conflict creates the distance they need, while happiness threatens to make them dependent on something they can't control. Their sabotage often includes testing behaviors designed to push you to your breaking point, so you'll be the one to end the relationship. They'll violate your stated boundaries, ignore your expressed needs, or engage in behaviors they know hurt you, all while maintaining plausible deniability about their intentions. If they can get you to leave, they avoid the guilt of abandoning someone who loved them while confirming their narrative about relationships being temporary and conditional. The most heartbreaking aspect of their relationship sabotage is that it destroys exactly what their heart most desperately wants: genuine connection, unconditional love, and emotional security. They torpedo the very relationships that could heal their attachment wounds because those relationships feel too valuable to risk losing naturally. Their sabotage ensures they lose everything they want while protecting them from the vulnerability of having something precious that could be taken away without their permission. The success allergy: why good things feel like threats. The avoidance relationship with success operates like a severe psychological allergy where achievements, recognition, and positive outcomes trigger their nervous system's threat response rather than feelings of satisfaction or pride. Their trauma has created neural pathways that interpret good things as setups for devastating disappointment, making success feel more dangerous than failure, because failure can't be taken away, but success always can be. This creates a perverse psychological landscape where struggling feels safer than thriving, where mediocrity provides comfort that excellence cannot offer. Their success allergy stems from early experiences where good things were temporary, conditional, or followed by punishment that taught their developing brain that positive outcomes are precursors to pain. Maybe their achievements were used against them later. Their happiness was seen as selfishness requiring correction, or their success created expectations they couldn't maintain. Their young psyche learned that flying high guarantees a devastating crash, so staying low became their survival strategy for avoiding the pain of unexpected falls. The visibility terror that success creates feels existentially threatening to someone whose safety has always depended on remaining unnoticed and undemanding. Professional recognition means increased scrutiny of their performance. Relationship success means higher expectations for emotional availability. Financial achievement means greater responsibility for maintaining that stability. Each form of success makes them more visible, more valuable, and therefore more vulnerable to criticism, disappointment, or loss that would hurt more because they had farther to fall. Their trauma creates what psychologists call negative outcome expectancy. Their brain literally cannot imagine positive situations remaining positive indefinitely. When good things happen, their mind immediately begins scanning for signs of impending doom, problems that will emerge, or ways the success will be taken away. This hypervigilance for future failure makes it impossible to enjoy present success because they're constantly braced for the inevitable reversal they believe is coming. The success allergy manifests as physical symptoms when achievements become real: anxiety, nausea, insomnia, or panic attacks that correlate directly with positive outcomes rather than negative ones. Their nervous system treats promotions like threats, treats recognition like danger signals, and treats accomplishments like warning signs that something terrible is about to happen. This somatic response to success reinforces their psychological belief that good things are inherently dangerous. They often develop superstitious thinking around success, believing that wanting good things too much will jinx them, that celebrating achievements will invite disaster, or that acknowledging their capabilities will trigger some form of cosmic punishment. This magical thinking serves their deeper psychological need to maintain control over outcomes by staying small, humble, and undemanding of life's positive possibilities. The comparison trap becomes particularly toxic for avoidants because other people's success reminds them of their own unrealized potential, while simultaneously triggering their fear of what achieving similar success would cost them emotionally. They might feel resentful of others' achievements, not because they're genuinely envious, but because witnessing success forces them to confront their own self-imposed limitations and the opportunities they've sabotaged to maintain their psychological safety. Their relationship with money exemplifies their success allergy. They might undercharge for services, avoid pursuing higher-paying opportunities, or make financial decisions that keep them struggling, because financial security feels like a trap that would require ongoing performance to maintain. Poverty feels more honest than wealth, because it doesn't create the pressure to sustain something valuable that could be lost through their own inadequacy or external circumstances. The achievement shame they experience when things go well reflects their deep-seated belief that they don't deserve positive outcomes, that their success takes something away from others, or that their accomplishments are somehow fraudulent or unearned. This shame makes success feel like theft rather than achievement, like they're taking up space or resources that should belong to someone more deserving. Their success allergy creates a psychological double bind where they simultaneously crave recognition and fear it, want achievement but dread its consequences, desire love but panic when it's offered genuinely. This internal conflict creates chronic dissatisfaction where nothing feels right. Failure feels terrible because it confirms their fears about their inadequacy, but success feels terrible because it activates their fears about loss and increased expectations. The perfectionism that often accompanies their success allergy serves as both driver and destroyer of achievement. They set impossibly high standards that guarantee failure, protecting them from the vulnerability of having their genuine efforts evaluated, while ensuring they never risk the terror of succeeding beyond their comfort zone. Their perfectionism becomes a sophisticated form of self-sabotage disguised as high standards. Time distortion around success makes positive outcomes feel temporary and fragile, while negative outcomes feel permanent and inevitable. When good things happen, they feel like flukes that will be corrected soon. When bad things happen, they feel like revelations of their true nature and circumstances. This temporal asymmetry makes investing in success feel pointless, because they genuinely believe it won't last long enough to justify the emotional risk. The most tragic aspect of their success allergy is how it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that confirms their worst fears about their own capabilities and worth. By systematically avoiding or sabotaging positive outcomes, they create evidence that they're not meant for success, recognition, or happiness. This false evidence then justifies continued self-limitation while protecting them from discovering what they might actually be capable of achieving if they could tolerate the vulnerability that success requires. How they sabotage your success and dreams. The avoidants' comfort with mediocrity doesn't remain contained to their own life. It spreads like a psychological virus to everyone in their orbit, creating an environment where your ambitions feel selfish, your achievements feel threatening, and your growth feels like abandonment of the person who's chosen safety over expansion. Their sabotage of your success isn't usually conscious or malicious, but it's systematic and devastating in its ability to slowly erode your confidence, diminish your dreams, and redirect your energy toward managing their discomfort with your potential rather than actualizing it. The achievement minimization begins subtly with responses to your successes that feel supportive on the surface, but actually deflate your enthusiasm and pride. When you get a promotion, they focus on the increased stress rather than celebrating your recognition. When you accomplish a goal, they immediately point out the next challenge or potential problem. When you share exciting opportunities, they become concerned about what you might be sacrificing or risking. This systematic dampening of your positive emotions around success teaches you to minimize your own achievements, to avoid triggering their anxiety. They often become emotionally unavailable or create relationship drama precisely when you need support for important career moves, major life changes, or challenging pursuits. Right when you're preparing for a big presentation, they start a fight about feeling neglected. Just as you're launching a new project, they become overwhelmed by relationship issues that require your immediate attention. During your most crucial periods of focus and growth, they manufacture crises that force you to choose between your success and their emotional needs. The comparison game becomes a weapon for undermining your confidence and ambition, as they either position themselves as unable to match your achievements or suggest that your success makes them feel inadequate. "You're so much more ambitious than I am." Sounds like a compliment, but actually functions as guilt for having goals they can't or won't pursue. "I could never do what you're doing," positions your growth as somehow inconsiderate of their limitations rather than inspiring evidence of what's possible. Their resource withdrawal often coincides with your periods of greatest need for support. They become less available with time, energy, encouragement, or practical help just when you're pursuing opportunities that require investment and focus. They might schedule competing priorities during your important events, become busy with their own projects when you need assistance, or simply withdraw emotional support when you're taking risks that require confidence and backing from your partner. They sabotage your networking and social connections that could advance your goals by creating conflicts around your professional relationships, making social events uncomfortable with their energy, or requiring so much reassurance about your other relationships that maintaining professional connections becomes exhausting. Your career advancement often depends on relationships they find threatening, so they create enough drama around your professional socializing that it becomes easier to isolate than to deal with their insecurity. The goalpost moving sabotage involves them changing their support level or relationship expectations precisely when you're making progress toward shared dreams. If you're both saving for a house, they might suddenly decide they want to travel instead just as you're approaching your goal. If you're working toward a degree they supposedly support, they might start complaining about your study time or questioning whether the education is worth the cost and effort. Their financial sabotage can be particularly devastating as they make spending decisions, create financial obligations, or resist financial planning that supports your long-term goals. They might insist on lifestyle choices that drain resources you're trying to invest in your future, resist budgeting that would support your education or business ventures, or create financial emergencies that force you to abandon savings plans or investment strategies. The emotional labor demands escalate when you're pursuing challenging goals that require focus and energy. Just when you need to concentrate on important projects, they develop personal crises that require your attention, support, and emotional management. Your success-focused energy gets constantly redirected toward their emotional needs, making it difficult to maintain the sustained effort that achievement requires. They often develop sudden health issues, family crises, or personal emergencies that coincidentally require your support during your most important professional or personal opportunities. While some of these situations may be genuine, the pattern of crisis timing often correlates suspiciously with your periods of growth and opportunity, suggesting unconscious sabotage designed to keep you available for their needs rather than pursuing your own development. The guilt tactics around your success become increasingly sophisticated as they frame your ambition as selfishness, your time investments as neglect, and your growth as abandonment of your shared life together. They make you feel like pursuing your dreams means sacrificing your relationship. Achieving your goals means becoming someone they can't relate to, and succeeding means leaving them behind in ways that threaten your connection. Their negative forecasting about your pursuits becomes a constant background soundtrack of pessimism and discouragement disguised as practical concern. They focus on what could go wrong, what you might lose, what you're sacrificing, and why your goals might not be realistic or worthwhile. This systematic negativity slowly erodes your confidence and enthusiasm while positioning them as the voice of reason rather than the source of sabotage. The most insidious sabotage involves them making their love and approval conditional on your willingness to stay small, choose security over growth, and prioritize their comfort over your potential. They create an environment where your success feels like betrayal, your ambition feels like selfishness, and your growth feels like abandonment. This conditional love forces you to choose between being true to your potential and maintaining their affection, a choice that no healthy relationship should ever require.